palace of the king, where the disguised Gwiyoung has been injured by the real Gwiyoung. The disguised Gwiyoung asks him if he is truly the real Gwiyoung, to which he responds, "How many times do I have to tell you that I am the real Gwiyoung?" Upon hearing this, the injured, disguised person lunges at him, shouting, "My first intention in coming here was to find and kill you. Die along with the king. You are the real reason for the miseries of Junshin." His attack is countered by Gwiyoung, who delivers a powerful, blasting kick, sending him crashing down with lightning speed. After being beaten, the disguised man struggles to his feet and rushes toward the king to kill him. The king's right hand arrives just in time, plunging his sword into the man's chest, rendering him immobile and numb. Another officer, named Lee Sung-mong, angrily asks him, "What took you so long to come? Do you not know the situation?" Lee Sung-mong replies calmly, "I was just following the Majesty's orders." The old officer, shocked by the unfolding events, warns, "We will not let this issue go." The king orders Lee Sung-mong, "Let him die. There are many inquiries that must be made of him beforehand." Lee Sung-mong obeys the orders dutifully. Meanwhile, Gwiyoung rushes forward with blinding speed, throwing punches like a speeding train and shouting, "Die." He is stopped by Lee Sung-mong, who demands, "Have you not heard the king's orders about sparing his life?" Burning with hatred for the barbarians, Gwiyoung snaps back, "Do you not see the hell these barbarians have brought? I have walked through hell 1,000 times. 5 years ago, they burned my village and murdered my parents, and here you are, asking me to spare their lives instead of taking them? Are you in your senses? I will cut down every one of them with my own sword." He moves to draw his sword, but his sister, Dong-i, stops him, pleading, "Please stop. This is scaring me." After her plea, he falls to his knees in front of the king, an action that shocks the monarch. Gwiyoung implores, "You have seen my strength. Give me a position in your empire and use me as you please. Just grant my sister, Dong-i, a chance to live a normal life, away from this murderous, dangerous existence full of struggle and fear." The king asks, "You wish to become one of my men for the sake of your sister?" Gwiyoung responds, "In a life that has become a hellhole, I at least want my sister to live a normal life." The king rejects his request, and Gwiyoung is stunned. He questions the king, "Is this because I disobeyed your orders earlier?" He attempts to punch the king, demanding to know the reason for the refusal, desperation, and fear of losing this opportunity evident in his voice. The king responds, "I disapprove because you wish to become one of my men for your sister's sake, and that is reason enough." Gwiyoung, unable to comprehend, stares at the king, puzzled. Lee Sung-mong intervenes, telling him, "You should be grateful to be alive after the disobedience you displayed earlier." Dong-i tries to calm her brother, saying, "It's okay, just let it go. Let's leave." Reluctantly, they exit the palace. As they leave, Lee Sung-mong asks the king why he did not reveal more. The king, with a note of guilt in his voice, replies, "It is shameless, too shameless." Whatever he meant, only the king and Lee Sung-mong understood. The scene shifts to the night, where Dong-i and Gwiyoung are walking, one behind the other. Dong-i turns back to face Gwiyoung and asks, "Why did you do that earlier? How could you think that selling your life would help me live in a noble household? How could you think like that?" Gwiyoung replies, 5 years ago, when our parents were killed, I promised our father that I would protect you, no matter the cost. I intend to keep that promise, no matter what." Dong-i, with a gentle smile, says, "You have been protecting me, and it is better to have an amazing brother by my side. What do you think of that?" Gwiyoung, touched by her words, smiles back and says, "I am blessed to have a sister like you." But before he can say more, an arrow pierces through Dong-i's chest. Gwiyoung stands frozen in shock, trying to make sense of the chaos unfolding around him. The arrowhead is lodged deep in the right side of Dong-i's chest, and she calls out to him with pain and fear etched across her face. "Brother," she whispers, her voice weak. Gwiyoung rushes to her, cradling her in his lap as her breathing grows shallow. From the shadows, the hidden barbarians emerge, sneering at the scene. One of them taunts, "You killed Makin, stronger, but so dumb. Thanks to him, we discovered the real Gwiyoung, and tracked you down. But Gwiyoung doesn't react, his focus entirely on his sister. Dong-yi tries to warn him, her voice barely a whisper. "Brother, there's someone behind you." But before she can finish, Lee Sung-mong strikes down the attacker who had been aiming at Gwiyoung. As Dong-yi clings to her final breaths in Gwiyoung's arms, he calls out her name, over and over. She meets his gaze, a faint, pained smile forming on her lips. "I'm okay, brother," she says with her last breath, and then her body goes limp in his arms. Gwiyoung's world collapses as she dies in his arms. The monstrous barbarian leader, observing Lee Sung-mong's skill, smirks. "It seems we've found ourselves a new dwarf fish to hunt." Lee Sung-mong, facing his opponent, raises his sword. "You should have considered the consequences before taking any action," he says with a cold monotony, then dispatches his enemy with a few swift strikes. The barbarian crumples to the ground, and the remaining members, stunned by their comrades' quick demise, begin to retreat. Lee Sung-mong shouts at Gwiyoung, "Do you really want to die here?" But Gwiyoung, tears streaming down his face, responds only with a hoarse whisper, "Dong-yi is dead." His grief twists into a rage as the realization grips him. The barbarians, recognizing the formidable warrior before them as none other than Lee Sung-mong, panic. "It's him! It's Lee Sung-mong! We need to get out of here!" They shout to each other, scrambling for an escape. Gently, Gwiyoung lays Dong-yi's lifeless body on the ground. He stands, the sorrow in his eyes hardening into something far more dangerous. Lee Sung-mong, seeing his resolve, asks, "What do you plan to do?" Gwiyoung's voice is cold and unyielding. "I will kill every last one of them," he says, then charges toward the fleeing barbarians. Blade in hand point one of the barbarian leaders, as he tries to make his escape, thinks frantically, why is Lee Sung-mong here in the northern region? He's as powerful as Choi Yun-duk. I must warn the others. But before he can move, Gwiyoung intercepts him. With a swift slash, he severs the man's arm. This hand held the bow that shot the arrow. Gwiyoung mutters, cutting off the other arm next. And this one drew the bowstring that killed her. He forces the man onto the ground, pressing the tip of his sword against his eye. "And this eye aimed for my sister," he growls, then drives the blade through, plucking out the eyeball. The scene shifts back to Lee Sung-mong, now accompanied by the king and a few guards. The king asks, "Are you certain that Gwiyoung went that way?" "He pursued the enemy's leader." "I am certain," Lee Sung-mong replies. The king contemplates. It's a delicate matter, considering giving this boy the position of informer. As they discuss, Gwiyoung staggers toward them, barely able to stand after the slaughter he has unleashed. His clothes are soaked in blood, his face pale and haunted. The king notices his approach and remarks, the name given to him, Ghost Shadow, suits him well. But just as Gwiyoung reaches them, a familiar voice calls his name from behind the king. He freezes, his eyes widening as the voice cuts through his despair. It is Dong-yi's voice. He turns and sees her, alive, running toward him. "Dong-yi," he whispers in disbelief, his mind struggling to grasp what he is seeing. She embraces him, and he stammers, How? How is this possible?" Dong-yi smiles softly. "The king, he saved me, brother. He brought me back. Are you okay?" Gwiyoung, overwhelmed with emotion, falls to his knees before the king. "Thank you, your majesty, for saving my sister," he says, voice breaking with gratitude. The king regards him coldly. "Are you happy to see your sister alive?" he asks, his tone devoid of warmth. Gwiyoung looks up, puzzled by the king's strange demeanor. Then, with a slow, deliberate movement, the king pulls out his sword and drives it into Dong-yi's back. Gwiyoung screams, "What are you doing?" as he rushes to catch her collapsing body. The king's voice is icy and detached. "Did I slash her? Don't worry. She'll survive this too." Gwiyoung, clutching Dong-yi's body, stares up at the king in horror. "What are you saying?" he demands, confusion and fury mixing in his voice. The king leans closer, his expression twisted with grim satisfaction. "Think carefully about what you're seeing, Gwiyoung. The only survivor of the invasion that occurred in Jurchen 5 years ago was you. Your sister died that day. What you're holding in your arms is nothing but an illusion, a shadow of your grief. Gwiyoung's world unravels as the weight of the revelation sinks in, leaving him kneeling in a pool of blood, holding onto the impossible remnants of a sister who had died long ago.